Hi, we're here with Adam Kokesh, who is a presidential candidate for Libertarian nomination in 2020. Hi, Adam.
Hey, Ron. Excited to be on Jack News.
Well, we're glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about your race.
Well, this race is really unlike anything the Libertarian Party has ever seen, really America, because I'm technically running for president, but anytime someone introduces me as a presidential candidate, I cringe a bit. A little part of me dies inside because, frankly, you have to be some kind of psychopath to say, I want to be president of the United States. I want to be in charge of this giant violent monopoly, and I want to force my will on the entire country. I don't think there's anything more anti-libertarian or anti-freedom that you can say than I want to be president. And while I am, yes, technically running for president, because my platform is the peaceful, orderly, responsible dissolution of the United States federal government, I'm going in as a bankruptcy agent. I would be resigning on day one, declaring the federal government of no authority, pardoning everybody who's in federal prisons for victimless crimes. It's much more accurate to say that I'm running to turn the presidential election into a referendum on whether or not the federal government should be allowed to exist at all.
Wow. That's great. That's a great statement. Tell us a little bit more about your
campaign.
Yeah,
we can just end it right there. That was it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, Tell us about your campaign, though. You've been working for quite a while, right? Yeah. Traveling around the country.
All right. Well, this campaign really started way back in 2012 when a friend of mine, challenging me, debating statism versus libertarianism, said, "Oh yeah, well, what would you do if you were president?" What would I do if I was president? Quit, go home, and get a real job. I throw the ring in the fire. I'm not going to put it on. And that's what this campaign is really about. It's an ideas-based campaign that's taking our principles and putting them into action. You know, not saying I'm socially liberal, fiscally conservative, I'm going to move the ball a little bit. No, we are going to show how our principles, when fully applied, improve everyone's lives. You know, we don't have to convince everybody to be libertarian. We don't have, just like the Democrats and Republicans don't feel like they have to convince everybody to be liberal and conservative to win elections. They just say, hey, we're going to make your life better, or they're going to scare people into, hey, we'll address your fears better than the other party. But what we're doing is obviously fundamentally different. The thing is, we still have to deal with the same reality about the average American, about regular voters. And our message shouldn't be, if you don't read a bunch of books and understand exactly what we think about, you're wrong. That's silly, And I think for too long, libertarianism has tried to play those political games where we sort of buy the basic premises of statism that we can all be forced into a one-size-fits-nobody solution. And what I found now, having been touring for the last 4 years with my book, Freedom, talking to regular Americans, when I introduce myself, and I don't have time to give that even 60-second, I'm running to dissolve the federal government in a peaceful, orderly, responsible manner. Most of them go, yeah, sounds like a good start, because this is about presenting libertarianism properly too. And if you try to say it's a set of political positions, you're really missing the point. This is a message of ethics and love at its core. And when you say, my goal is to give you freedom, my goal is to make sure that no one is forcing their will upon you, that your will as an individual human being is respected on this earth, that's what connects with people. And so the idea behind this is localization. I'm not running just to dissolve the federal government. The idea is to get government all the way down to the community level, because every American, really every human being on earth, has the right to choose what kind of government they're going to live under, or none at all. And the only way we're going to get to that reality is by localizing government, getting it down to the community level where your voice and your vote have a chance of mattering. So we just declared in January, but we had a sort of pre-exploratory phase where I actually said I'm running for not president, so I didn't have to file paperwork with the FEC. And we were still able to go out and talk about these ideas and dissolving the federal government and the threat of actually doing it in this manner. And it's just been... when you draw a line in the sand based on principle, people will join you on the right side of that line. And slowly but surely that's been happening. I'm seeing it not just in the general public and in the response to my campaign, but within the Libertarian Party as well. And it's really exciting to see how the thought is evolving from, let's buy these premises of government, let's play politics, to no, you can have as much government as you want as long as it's voluntary. As long as it's in line with our principles, as long as it's ethical, as long as it's founded in love for your fellow human beings. And that's really what this message is all about.
You mentioned your book. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your book?
The book is called Freedom, all caps with an exclamation mark. I started writing it when I was in jail for civil disobedience in Washington, D.C. People sent me all the greatest libertarian manifestos, and I used to be able to rattle off like 20 authors' names. I'm not going to try because I'm going to leave someone out. But one of them is here, so I'll give Dr. Mary Ruwart a shout out for healing our world in an age of aggression. But it was a couple dozen books, and I thought they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. What if we could combine all of their strengths and leave the weaknesses out? So I decided that I would become the very best rip-off artist the freedom movement has ever known, and decided to take all these ideas and create the ultimate red pill. It's 100 pages, so it's short, it's easy to digest, it's in short chapters, short sections, it's very accessible language, no judgment, no opinion, no wishful thinking. It's very much global in its applicability. It's not Amerocentric, and it doesn't reference any specific historical points that might throw people off. It's just, no, here's a clear statement of philosophy that explains why government, at least as we know it today as a coercive monopoly, is fundamentally illegitimate. We've had over 3 million downloads, 50,000 copies in print. It's been a big success. Everybody who reads, well, my favorite criticism of this from libertarians is, well, it was kind of boring, and I've heard all these ideas, but I would give it to someone who hadn't heard of these ideas. Exactly, that's the point, that's what it's for, that's the target audience.
So where do you get the book? How do you buy the book?
TheFreedomLine.com is my website. 3 words, TheFreedomLine.com. And you can get it for free in every digital format possible, including audiobook, because it's explicitly anti-intellectual property. I think that's another really important thing that the libertarians don't talk about enough, because intellectual property as a government racket has killed the music industry, I can't say killed, but it's coming back now with the major record labels losing a lot of their power. But innovation, pharmaceutical industry, the idea that you can use the violence of government to stop the free flow of ideas is offensive. It's so anti-libertarian. So just being able to live that with my book, and my background is mostly media production as an activist. When I ran for Congress in 2010, I was endorsed by Ron Paul because he wanted me to run as a Republican. And after that race was over, I couldn't shut up. So I got a radio show, and that turned into a TV show. And when that got canceled for political reasons, I went online and focused on building my YouTube channel. Got up to 70 million views, and now you can't even trust YouTube since they got bought by Google. So now it's all about Steemit, blockchain-based social media, DTube. We have the alternatives. And with this book now, I've done 4 national tours for it, and been all over the country. People who say, like, I just want to get this book in people's hands, they understand what it represents as a tool. And I can humbly say that we succeeded in creating the ultimate red pill. And I say we because I had a lot of help. I really crowdsourced the editing and the development of this book. And with 300 people involved in the process, using a document share online where everybody could see the most updated version. Yeah, I think what we have, at least in that format of an easy to read book, it's the ultimate red pill.
Now, I understand you might have some opinions about the Libertarian Party's future, how you see the Libertarian Party being run. Do you have any comment on that?
I think there are a couple things. There were 2 events that I did this weekend for the Libertarian National Convention. One of them was March of the Dead Veterans, to call attention to the issue of veteran suicides, because just last week we had John Watts, 58-year-old Air Force veteran, light himself on fire in front of the Georgia State Capitol in protest of his experience at the VA. Just yesterday morning, doing this outside the VA, on the sidewalk, we had their security telling us as veterans that we couldn't be on VA property. It's mind-boggling. And Democrats and Republicans don't seem to care about 20 veteran suicides a day. This is the party that has the answer to the epidemic of veteran suicides and the drug war. Free the VA. It's, to me, I'm a combat veteran, and this idea that we were fighting for your freedom, that we were in Iraq for your freedom. When I can't come home and medicate the way I choose to. Still in most states, I'm a criminal for smoking cannabis to deal with anxiety related to PTSD. I see other veterans who are committing suicide because they had experiences similar to mine, where when I went to the VA and I told them I was having trouble sleeping, I walked out of there with a little brown paper bag, 5 prescriptions, 3 of them had suicide listed as side effects. Cannabis saved my life because I was able to avoid that and disobey the law in doing so. But 20 veteran suicides a day, this is the party for veterans, no doubt. because the Republicans and Democrats are willing to kill veterans on behalf of the pharmaceutical industry through the VA. So bringing that message, doing outreach to veterans and military, I think because a lot of libertarians have such strong anti-government sentiment, a lot of us have a bad tendency of turning that to negativity towards the individuals in government, whether it's cops especially, because that's the face of government for a lot of us, or the soldiers or veterans. And I think that's a really bad approach. I think we need to be as welcoming as possible and reach out to veterans and military guys especially. Ron Paul, more contributions from active duty military than all other presidential primary candidates combined when he was running. The troops support this message. The next thing is the black community. We did a black community outreach panel yesterday with Cynthia McKinney, former Democratic Congresswoman and Green Party nominee for president, Maj Touré of Black Guns Matter, and LaTanya Whittington of Houston Normal. And I'm really excited about what we accomplished yesterday with that, because I couldn't have pulled it off even just a few years ago. I have been typical nerdy white male INTJ libertarian, and I was a little bit afraid to talk to minorities. It's something that you go, and it's not because I'm racist, it's because, oh my gosh, I don't want to be perceived as racist. And what we were able to do with that panel yesterday was give everyone in the audience, and I hope everybody who watches the video later in the LP, that confidence of communicating with black Americans. And the thing is, with our message, we want to be colorblind, and we're very much idealists as libertarians. Human rights are universal, so we tend to ignore issues that are race-based. And facing up to this is really important, to acknowledge that people have different experiences based on race, especially black Americans. And black Americans have a very unique, as a demographic, relationship with government and authority. And the fact that the black community isn't more libertarian is a huge missed opportunity to make that connection for our movement. So those are the two big things where I see that, like, room for improvement with the LP and doing that kind of outreach and bringing that kind of principled messaging in. In terms of my campaign, to bring it back to that, you can have as much government as you want as long as it's voluntary. And I think that's the most important shift in the sort of attitude of the LP presenting this message. And it shouldn't be, your society, your community has to have this, that, or the other, or your government can only do this, that, or the other. But no, you can have as much government as you want as long as it's voluntary, as long as it's ethical. You're not forcing it on anybody. I'd like to see that shift, and that's a big part about what my campaign is bringing about, and bringing that set of ideas into the party.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, Ron. Appreciate it.
Sure.